Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet and of YouTube. Welcome to Jibber Jabber. As always, I am your host, Skajarmas, otherwise known as Tone Shift, and with me today we have, a slightly different assortment of people from the usual. Joining us is one of our lovable Brits. We've got Darkness.
Back again.
Sadly, he is the only British person to be joining us today. Next up on the list of people joining us, we have a paladin in the background staring into your soul.
Stare.
Watching all of this with a look of absolute horror is the newest addition to the Jibber Jabber crew, and a new patron of mine at $5, I believe, CO Sword.
Hey there.
Yep. Next up, we have Hades, who is also here.
Yep.
And lastly, reprising his role from last time from that one episode that never saw the air because it got corrupted, we have our stoned and presumably drunk and sick changeling friend, Fallen, just kind of chilling out there, being creepy on the side with that dopey smile. Yes. So, everyone, how's your week been?
It's been pretty good.
I puked a few times.
Except
It
the
was
British
nice.
weather being
Not really
typical
much
British
happened.
weather.
Refinding myself and whatnot.
Y'all kind of talked over yourselves.
That tends to happen here.
Yeah, well, my week went well enough, I like to think.
Except for the insomnia.
Yes, I've been dealing with more insomnia than usual, but outside of that, some decent progress has been made trying to get that Doctor Who thing put together, just waiting on one last set of lines. Some writing got done. I posted more in Bug in the Basement and Little Consequences on filmfiction.net. Made some more progress in my readings. Good week all around.
Very productive.
Yes. Now, as things stand, we were kind of starved for topic ideas today. But luckily, Hades swooped in and saved today, so I suppose I should preface this by saying this episode is probably going to be very Doctor Who heavy, so if Doctor Who isn't your thing, or if you're here for the pony discussions, this episode might be a bit of a disappointment for you because the first and biggest topic we've got lined up, in fact, the only one we have fully nailed down, is Doctor Who discussion. So
Terrific.
specifically, it was Hades' idea, so Hades, why don't you elaborate for us real quick?
I suppose.
And then
So
we can
yes,
go one at a time.
So yes, the idea is to name your favorite Doctor, and it could be any of them from 1 to 13. Of course, we don't really know too much about the 13th one, but that does not matter. To say. Then next will be villain/monster, because it can just be either, and your favorite episode. So I say the host starts. So Tone, why don't you start it off?
All right, well, favorite Doctor? In terms of the characterization themselves, it would have to be Matt Smith. So 11. But in terms of the stories told, it would have to be David Tennant. Now, I don't have any experience with the classic era of Doctor Who. There's just too much shit to go through, and I don't have the patience for it.
Yep.
So I probably won't be touching the classic stuff, sadly. But, so modern stuff only for me. But, yeah, David Tennant had the better stories and writing because Russell T Davies was fantastic. No pun intended. Whereas, but I generally prefer this more socially inept, childish, but also ferocious and intimidating 11th Doctor. As far as personalities go, I like that. That very strong contrast in his personality. Now, my favorite monsters or villains? Excuse me. I think it's a tie between the Weeping Angels and the Boneless.
Ah, the boneless.
Yeah. Just because those things are freaky and fascinating. Two-dimensional creatures trying to invade three-dimensional space. I like it.
Yep.
Neat concept. As for favorite episode, I honestly have no idea. I mean, I really don't have any clue which one would have to be my favorite. Like I'm racking my brains. Like I don't know. I don't. A lot of them are really good. A lot of them are really good. Some of them are kind of. I can't find which one in particular I like more than others. I like a lot of them, most of them, for different reasons.
It's understandable.
Mm.
It's been around for many years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still trying to get caught up on season 10 before series 11 even starts. So.
See.
But yeah, that's my assessment of things. Let's go from left to right as far as the video side of things is concerned, which means CO would be next.
Yeah.
You there?
New guy.
Me?
Were you paying attention? Oh shit.
Yeah, I'm up next. Okay. My favorite doctor is David Tennant.
Pretty popular opinion, that.
Yeah. My favorite villains would be the Dalek.
Daleks. Not Daleks.
Exterminate.
Exterminate.
Exterminate! Oh god, why is my thing so loud? That's weird.
I don't know.
Does it sound stupidly loud for the rest of you? I just realized I'm peaking in the red. What the hell? All right.
Nah,
it's
good.
all right.
Not really.
All right.
from here.
It should be better-ish now. I don't know what the hell that's about. Why is that happening? Why is that so loud? Anyway.
It's just your ego.
No, it's not. That's not how that works.
To be fair, doing a Dalek voice, you do tend to go loud. So
No, I mean, like just in general, my microphone sensitivity for some reason was way up, but I didn't set it that way. I was peaking in the red when normally I'd still be in the yellow.
Yeah.
So sorry to anyone if I accidentally blasted out your eardrums in the video. Not my intention. That was accidental. Sorry.
Let's hope it's not
it's
another
okay, it's
software
good.
problem.
My Denons have good volume control.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, it was on the recording side of things rather than like the output that you guys are hearing right now. Anyway, CO, you were saying.
Yeah. My favorite episode would be when the doctor pretty much punished the people who were coming after him for like eternal life and whatnot.
Oh, the family of blood. Yes.
Oh, that.
He didn't yell at us. That was the worst part. The fury of a Time Lord.
One of his darker moments.
Yeah, don't fuck with a Time Lord. He'll fuck your shit.
They wanted to live forever. He gave it to him.
Yep, but not how they wanted. Not how they wanted at all.
Nope.
Hades, your go.
All right. Of the modern doctors, I really liked David Tennant.
I'm sensing
his
a theme
perform-
here.
I'd say the 10th
He's a good
Doctor.
actor.
He's a great actor. I love a lot of the shit that David is in, but just the Doctor, his character in general, is just that Doctor. He was witty. I would say he was witty. He was funny. He was just all around just hilarious in almost every single moment. Even when he was mad, it just kind of was funny.
Oh, barefoot on the moon.
From Thicania.
Yes. Yeah, I'm about to say, yeah, it was just so many quips from him, and it was honestly hilarious. It was honestly hilarious. And I don't know if anyone here even went back to the classic Who. I don't know.
Oh, I do, which is why it's very hard for me to pick.
I'm about to say, if I can just tip in a little bit of the classic Who, I really liked the 7th Doctor, Sylvester McCoy.
Oh,
was-
yes,
He was a lot of fun and a lot of more of a darker side to the Doctor that I literally loved to see.
Handled a lot better than Colin Baker, who was like, his whole thing was trying to be dark.
Okay, yeah, okay, the 6th Doctor. We don't talk about that guy. We don't talk about that one.
No,
To
the,
see where the
no,
sixth
the 8th
Doctor
one when it turned into a soap. I was like, really?
Okay, yeah,
Uh,
8 was, but 6 was the worst in my opinion.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
Actually,
and then okay, so favorite villain or monster? My favorite monster by far, the Vashta Narada.
Oh.
the 8th nearly killed Doctor Who, I think.
Yeah, Yeah, I would say, but no, the Bastionerata are so awesome because the Doctor literally had, let's see, for every other villain, the Doctor always had a defense or a plan to deal with them. Whenever you ask him about this one, run,
And
just run.
don't go in dark places.
Don't go in dark places. Light only slows them down, doesn't stop them, and they're so horrifying because there's literally almost no defense because even if you stay in the light, they're going to get to you eventually.
They're gonna get to you eventually, and then you're gonna go from a fully fleshy human being to just a skeleton in like a matter of seconds.
Less than seconds.
Yeah, piranhas of the air.
Piranhas of the air. About to say that's and say favorite episode. It's either the Silence in the Library two-parter with the Vashnarana, or it's also tied with Matt Smith's encounter with the Weeping Angels with the Crash of the Byzantium. Let's say that was fun. It's like, what was the name of it? Like Flesh in the Stone or something. I can't remember. It was with Matt and Amy Pond, and it was a really nice montage with the Weeping Angels. Just imagine an entire chasm, dark chasm.
Yeah, I remember.
With filled with Weeping Angels. That would be horrifying.
It was.
It was terrifying. I would like, God damn it. So yeah, that's my go. Who's next?
Darkness. Your go.
Oh boy. Okay. After giving it a bit of a thought, I pretty much like a load of the Doctors, but I did like, and of course I do like David Tennant one, but I think one of my personal favorites was Tom Baker's.
Okay, the fourth Doctor. That's a big fan favorite from classic.
Yeah, he's one of the longest going Doctors.
7 years as the Doctor. Longest of any of them.
Plus, he's the only Doctor that actually became president of the Time Lords. And of course, this guy's been pretty much everywhere back in the very old movies and series. And even shows reference that Doctor a lot as well, it seems. So
yeah, let's say the scar from the 100th MOP episode is based off of Tom Baker.
Yep.
Yeah. And as he could be dark and funny at the same time. I mean, he has this like stare now and then. He does, which just like
that's much harder.
I just know that as like the murderous stare. And then the next moment he could offer you a jelly baby, which most are not impressed by that.
And that still keeps getting referenced. Let's say Capaldi did that in that one episode. Would you like a jelly baby?
That reminds me of the time Matt tried to trick the Daleks into thinking a Johnny Dodger was a heart of self-destruct.
A Jolly Dodger. I remember that.
All right, it's a jammy Dodger, but I was promised tea.
And then they started shooting at him and somehow missed.
Yeah. So
Daleks aren't the best at aiming.
I thought they were like. I thought they were supposed to be like supreme aimers because wouldn't be terrifying.
I mean, at least the previous Dalek actually shot the Doctor at one point, which was David Tennant. But these new Daleks, your aiming is lacking.
A little bit.
But I can see how they just like, I suppose in a way, kill them off screen in a way at one point, and they say they're never going to go back to that. But yeah, I can see why. I mean, they weren't particularly the most popular design of the Daleks.
Yeah.
Plus, it didn't even show off the second gun that they had, which is basically meant to come out from behind them, and then it rotates round because, unlike the other one before them, that part doesn't rotate.
Yeah, so like people said that you could escape a Dalek up the stairs and whatnot. That was like a running joke.
Yeah, no, they can float.
But getting to monsters, I would say, well, I like the previous Sotarans, but I'm also like a huge Dalek fan too. I mean, they have been around a lot.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Sontaha.
I mean, it does like how over the top they are when they did make a comeback.
I like Strax. He's hilarious.
Lactic fluid. Fucking Strax.
And
Surrender
General
to
Stark.
the glory of the Sontaran Empire.
Hello!
Oh,
Step out and surrender for the glory of the Sontaran Empire. Shush!
Shush.
I also
was
like
hilarious.
General Stark of the Tents of Tarman Fleet. He was just
Oh my god.
fighting over the top joy.
That was hilarious.
I'm a lizard person from prehistoric times, and this is my wife.
Oh yes,
Oh god.
Bastra and Jenny. I like those two.
Yeah, those
they
two
were funny. They
were
were
hilarious.
amusing.
Are they gonna come back? I want them to come back.
I don't know. We haven't seen them since Clara kicked the bucket.
But
That's
as
kind
for
of how most things work.
Yeah.
To be fair, they are traipsing about in Victorian era, so those two.
As for favorite episode, well, despite I've been going through pretty much all the Doctors, I'd say one of them would have been one of the Lost episodes, which you can find the audio of it, and there's also plans to do like a animated version of it, like they did with Power of the Daleks, which is Evil of the Daleks. Which, in a way, if they did ended them off there, it would have been, I suppose, a big climactic ending for the Daleks. But obviously, they came back later on because, by demand of fans, they were
About
popular.
to say it's pretty much the fan favorite monster that just keeps coming back.
I mean, let's get a little bit of what the plan was about it. The Emperor Dalek thought it was a good idea to do something the Daleks never thought to ever do, is given the next entire huge army of Daleks human emotions to try to make them more better, efficient killers. And so they can learn from their mistakes. But obviously adding the human factor didn't work out too well because then they start asking questions, which the Doctor clearly warned them, but the Emperor was too arrogant to listen. He just demands he will obey, and once the Daleks have been altered, then take them back in time to disrupt the history of Earth. So the Daleks exist even earlier on Earth. Which then the Doctor managed to use it to his advantage and spread the human factor to many Daleks, which then he managed to raise an uprising against the Daleks, which pretty much they destroyed each other. It was a complete slaughterfest.
Nice.
Which would have been the final end for the Daleks, but of course, they always find a way to come back.
Yeah, speaking of the Daleks, I remember this one episode with David Tennant at Canary Wharf when the Daleks met the Cybermen. That was hilarious.
The bitch fight of Canary Wharf.
I know.
Identify first. Identify yourself.
You will identify first.
And then just back and forth and back and forth, back and forth.
Until it finally said, "We are Daleks."
Or in the case of the meme video that I love so much, they say something referring to gender, and the Daleks are like, "Daleks have no concept of gender," and the Cyberman is like, "You have identified as Daleks," and then identified themselves, and of course the Daleks are like, "Bugger, that was clever."
Bugger.
The Cybermen are known for their intelligence. So
I
you're
love the appearance of the
Cybermen.
Doctor in that episode when he meets Daleks. He just uses a sonic screwdriver.
Oh,
And he's like, "Do you know what this is?" Dalek's like, "It's a sonic probe."
That's
That's
screwdriver. It is
Okay,
very
fine.
good at opening doors.
Yeah.
Pushes a button,
Opening-
explosions.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
I also loved how pretty much is like the Doctor's relationship towards the Dalek is like he's the one like race of people that where the Doctor doesn't act like reasonable or suspicious. He's like these people.
You
just
know, that
don't
is a
care.
good point. Out of all of the creatures that he deals with, he tries to negotiate or deal with just about every single one, Cybermen, Sontarans, and all that. But the one that he knows that he'll never be able to cooperate with, Daleks.
unless they ask him to save them from their own prison planet going awry.
Oh,
Which just
okay.
reminds me of that parody, that little like special thing they've done, which was a comedy altogether.
Well, anyways, hate to cut you off there, but we still got one more person who has to go off through his lists.
Sure, go
Fallen.
through.
Oh yes. Oh.
Did Paladin do his?
No,
Hmm?
not yet.
No, I
He didn't. He's on the far right of the image, so.
No.
Okay, you
no,
said
haven't
one.
yet. But yes. Oh, it's been such a long time since I've watched any Doctor Who. But okay, favorite Doctor. Well, I guess favorite Doctor would have to be David Tennant. I mean, keeping with the theme. You always got to stick together in these hard times. But David Tennant definitely he was one of the best. He was probably one of the best openings for Doctor Who for me because I don't know if I'm alone here, but I wasn't too fond of the Ninth Doctor.
I really wasn't either.
I liked him, but he wasn't my favorite. I did like him though. He had plenty of
There
wit and
was-
charm and comedy to
There
him.
were some.
I admit, at least he could blend into a crowd. That one. I mean, he doesn't look a bit, well, different than
Yeah.
everyone else. He looks like the sort of guy that can blend in.
He
True.
looks normal.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And sort of David Tennant had the best opening, I think, of
Definitely.
the
Yeah.
Doctors. Just comes in with a bathrobe and gets his hand cut off after just toppling a regime and doesn't care.
About to say, yeah.
And then he killed someone because he was going to kill him. Which
Yeah.
Threw an apple at a button.
Threw an apple at a
I-
button, made him fall off.
No
That's like a
second
shot.
chances. That's the kind of person I am.
Wow.
Exactly.
I thought it was
Um,
a tangerine, or for some reason, is also known by another term.
A Satsuma.
Satsuma. Yeah.
Satsuma. Ugh. But yes, he's definitely my favorite Doctor. But which is strange because most of my favorite episodes come from Matt Smith's era. But
There
You
you
know.
go.
Yeah. David Tennant's my favorite modern Doctor, and I would say Tom Baker's my favorite past Doctor.
About to say you
Mhm,
said
yeah,
that.
I definitely. For favorite monster, I think I'm definitely alone in this. Is probably the Ood. Like,
The Ooh.
Oh,
yeah.
I
Well, I
did
don't-
like their little charm, I have to
don't-
say.
I don't really know if you could consider them a monster.
well, okay. Favorite, like, they are a monster if they get mad.
Okay, well, yeah.
You do not
okay,
want to piss off the Ooh.
No,
Okay, yeah, I
they-
can get that.
I was a child when I was watching for the first time them getting mad. It was still not so baby boy, but I was a child nonetheless, and I was freaked out of my mind.
about to say, yeah, those things. It was kind of creepy, especially with the episodes that they were featured in.
Ood on the
Yeah,
loo.
and the calmness of it is just, would you like some tea with that, sir? And just electrocute people with their balls.
Yeah.
I don't
Living
think
to
Josh would be a fan of them either, from also known as the Fiery Joker, because he doesn't like things with red eyes.
Yeah. And they made more than one appearance, and I was very happy with that.
I'm about to say, yeah, they
Mm.
made like
yeah, the
or
last one
three.
was Ood on the loo.
I forgot that
And then
name.
they made and then they
Oh.
made a slight appearance in David Tennant's last confrontation with the Master, I think.
I
During
think
his
so.
during his specials before he disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
they were the ones who were singing Valet de Shem, so.
Yep.
I can't remember if I saw the Ood. Probably, maybe not. When basically every single enemy he fought against,
I don't think
That's
and honestly, I don't think the Ood showed up for that.
yeah.
You don't really
I mean, it
count
was-
among his enemies, so.
But they weren't
Yeah.
enemies, they were just kind of
That's why I was a
there.
bit hesitant about it.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
and
I
favorite
mean,
episode?
they're
Your favorite
very
episode?
versatile. Oh yes, favorite episode. Now I have like special attachments to this episode because I was really I still kind of am really into coding and editing code, and the Bells of Saint John was just all coating.
Spoon
It's
heads.
just- yeah, those were freaky, but it was just the thought that, oh, maybe the Doctor's been around for so long that he can just, hack a system with a tiny little Chromebook laptop. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing.
You hack people. Me, I'm old-fashioned. I hack technology.
Oh, look at me!
I love
I can save the universe with some string and some kettle.
With a kettle and some string. And look at me, I'm wearing a vegetable.
that was definitely really nice.
Yes,
That was a good scene.
Yeah. Not a fan of the celery.
I'll have to say,
I mean, he made it work, that particular Doctor.
I'm about to say, the Fifth Doctor did have a really nice design. I really liked his costume. Really, all of them were great. The only one that really just made me cringe was the Sixth Doctor.
Because it was way too bombastic and colorful.
It was.
And it's, if I
It was a
recall, it was
tragedy.
also the one with quite an attitude problem.
He was extremely arrogant and self-absorbed, holding himself above
Yes.
everyone else.
About,
I
even
mean-
his companion, he was
Oh,
really
yeah.
a jerk.
I mean, the way he said that line is like he's not just speaking to the companion, he's like speaking to the entire audience as well. I am the Doctor, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. again,
Really?
there were a few parts that Six had that were actually kind of cool, but honestly, I wasn't really a big fan of Six.
Wasn't the
Yeah.
Valiard introduced to Six?
Yeah, the Valiard, that one whole deal with the Valiard, that was Six.
And the Valiard is supposed to be like a future incarnation of the Doctor who went evil or something, right?
It's an amount. He was explained as an amalgamation of all the darker parts of his mind, somewhere between the 12th and final incarnation, which they kind of flopped on when they went back to the modern Who, because it's not, because there's only like a few things I could maybe think of that it could make it work, like the whole Dream Lord thing might have been a callback to the Valiard. I'm not sure. But yeah, they kind of flopped on that. It kind of wasted potential there. You could have had a nice little deal there.
Oh well.
Oh well.
There could have been an evil doctor and whatnot.
Sorry for me laughing in the background. This reminded myself of the old black and white Cybermen.
Oh
Those were the old
yeah,
Yeah.
That acting.
that acting.
Oh, funny.
I'm glad to see we could make a single topic last for about almost 30 minutes.
That's
Ah.
nice.
So
Feels
about,
good.
Yep, so about halfway through the episode now. And as things stand, I've only got one other topic pre-lined up before we would have to go into improv, and I guess it's time to jump over to that now. Fallen.
Yep.
You do editing for stories, namely, like we discussed last time you were here on that episode that never aired for Hades, but more recently you also edit for Bug in the Basement, which is my thing. I figured this would be a good opportunity to revisit what we discussed last time without it feeling stale or like we're just trying to recreate whatever magic was lost that first time, because now you have something to contrast and compare editing Hades' work to mine. Yeah, so
I'm about to say,
Yeah.
how different is it comparing me to Tone?
brace yourself,
Well, I
Hades.
mean,
Oh yeah.
okay. That episode never aired, and I did talk a lot about Hades, but I didn't only talk about the Hades. I did talk about other people on the server that I have edited for,
And just other
namely
people in general.
Starfish,
and other people. in
and
general.
that one Polish guy that we will not
I'm
mention.
about to say, we don't talk about that guy.
That was a bad decision. Anyway, but yeah, it's kind of funny because with Hades, I sort of kind of maybe begged him to let me edit his story.
Let me put this into contrast. I was going on that I should probably do rewrites of my first few chapters because of some advice that Tom threw at me. And then I said, you know what, maybe I should get an editor, but I didn't know anybody who would do editing, and I didn't want to just find some random dude on FimFiction. Then Fallen's like, ooh, I'll look at it for you.
And what a mistake he made saying yes.
I'm saying best and worst mistake of my life.
Yeah.
I'm
Because, I
proud of
mean, with Hades, it's editing, 20-paged chapters, and there's like 400 errors per chapter. So, I mean,
Yeah, granted that my stuff is probably a lot longer than Tone, because Tone usually keeps it
yeah,
between like
his are about
3 to 5,000 words.
2 to
5 to
5,000
6
is my
pages.
range. Yeah.
Huh.
Mhm.
I would
And
be an editor. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
yeah, and with that, I bitch a lot. I do, and namely, I think people think that's funny, but Hades certainly doesn't. And
I can
that's-
handle it to a degree.
It's the way you go about the bitching process that we find funny.
Mm.
Treat him like a landmine.
Yeah, and I feel like I can't bitch much about Tone's story because, well, okay, I can for a few certain things, but namely, it's this weird thing that Tone does with words. I don't know, because Hades does it a lot too, and I get to bitch about him doing it as well, but Tone will use the same word like 4 times in a paragraph, and it's almost like he doesn't know that there's this sort of repetition to it.
I usually
So,
notice
I'm
that-
like-
I usually notice after the fact. It's especially prevalent in Little Consequences. The word crystal has been said over 100 times in that story.
Well, you're in the
Oh,
Crystal
yes.
Empire. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean,
Uh,
it is a problem of mine that I'm aware of, but I'm not necessarily sure of an organic and natural way to go about it. Pulling up a thesaurus is good, but it comes with the drawback that if it's a word I myself wouldn't actually use very frequently, it means I
Yeah,
probably
that's-
don't, and as such, it can kind of mess with the flow of the story as a whole.
About to say, yeah, that
Exactly.
happens with me a lot too.
So I try.
Oh, yeah.
So I try
So
not
much.
to do that. I just try to fix the error based on my own faculties.
Yeah.
Look on
and
the bright side.
what?
At least you didn't edit did some editing for when my annoying friend Ben tried to do a fanfic. That very
God,
thing
no,
kills
mm-mm,
brain
no.
cells.
I don't need to hear
Oh.
about Ben
I-
because Ben can't even read, so I don't want to see him trying to write things. It would be like 4 times worse than Hades, and Hades can barely write words in a proper syntax. So,
Thank you, Pong.
apparently he changed tense once. Like, doesn't he like change tense
Oh.
occasionally?
you
Okay.
should have seen the first few
Okay.
chapters.
Oh,
It was
okay.
great.
Okay, allow me a chance to defend myself here. When I first started this thing, I didn't quite know how the tense that I wanted because of how I wanted it portrayed. It was in first person, and I didn't know like how I wanted to do is like make it present or make it past, because it was like the idea of it was my character telling the story like from how he remembered it. So that's like way in the future or whatever deal, and
Well, if it's
That
as
was
you
basi-
remembered it, then past tense would be the way to go, because presumably.
and that's what I eventually got to. Now everything is in past tense, or at least I try.
Keyword, eventually.
Yeah. I'd say I fixed it. I'm about to say, how many have you seen any issues with tense in my latest chapters, Fallen?
Yes, 2 exactly. I noted them down, and I think you fixed them.
2?
Hmm.
I don't
Well, Ben
remember.
can't even spell pounce. He put pounce.
Well, then of course I'm sure Tone isn't nearly as bad as me when it comes to commas. Now is he, Fallen?
Oh no.
No, I'm just.
Oh,
no.
no.
I just suck with its.
No,
It's-
the thing is, the thing that I like with Tone that I don't like with Hades, and I'm going to basically call you stupid for a second, Hades, but
Go for it.
Tone learns from his mistakes, and I'm not saying that you don't. It's just that you learn a lot slower than he does.
In,
And I'm basically calling you slow, which is also basically calling you stupid. So
Thank you. In my defense, Tone's been writing shit like this a lot longer than I have.
yes, that is usually my mental understanding of why there's so many errors. Just like, oh, this is Hades' new thing. This is his new thing that he's trying out, and I should be courteous. Maybe I'll write a poem here and there. Maybe I'll write Zoni's Paradise, which is Gangster's Paradise. But and there's just something to keep me going while I monotonously, type down these things. But for Tone, it's not that hard. I can do it. I can edit one of his chapters in like an hour. But for Tone, he's so much more meticulous about how he writes that I actually have to like fully read it. I'm not saying that I don't fully read yours, Hades, just I'm not in depth.
Oh,
And I have to think about all of the continuity errors or the wrong things that don't sound right. Wrong things that don't sound. I'm tired, but
oh,
I'm always
Word
tired, I'm always
choice,
drunk, and I'm always
Fallen,
wrong.
I do have a question for you.
Do
Well, I've pretty much written a story. I've already went through a bunch of editors and whatnot, so it's just sitting there for the most part.
Uh-oh.
mm-hmm.
It just put another one on your plate, Fallen.
Of course, I can always use the editing practice. I can always do that. I don't like not editing at all.
I think I'm gonna take a break from editing.
Well, I mean, that's what I've been doing because nobody's given me anything to edit, and I haven't been actively searching.
I'll probably write up the rest of the next chapter of Bug in the Basement later today.
Thanks, Tone. That's great.
Oh yeah, I have like an
really
entire
love to read
story,
it.
pretty much. The Unspoken Friends of Nightmare Moon. It's like it's already been proofread a bunch of other times, so you won't really have very much to work on besides like probably like advanced pretty much spelling errors.
I mean, how long is the story altogether, and how long are the chapters? Average.
Chapters average roughly 10 to 20.
1,000?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Okay. Yay, fun. I love editing.
I'm about to say,
That's so much fun.
I'm about to say, Paladin, you were not Paladin, Fallen.
Okay.
Fallen.
Complain about long chapters.
Let's say Fallen here complains about my shit being long. There you go.
CL, I gotta intersect here. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Wait, which one? Which one are you talking about?
The guy with the 10 to 20,000 word chapters. That is not okay.
How many
How is that
chapters?
okay? I have deep
Because
story.
because the standard length for a book to be considered a novel is 50,000 words. That is the minimum to be considered.
55.6. All right.
I mean, just
I was rounding down. Shut up. The point is that is the length of a novel, 55.6. 20,000 is damn near half of that. That is in no sphere, at least from my point of view, all right. You could probably easily run through each of those and split them up into smaller bite-sized chunks for the people who have attention spans not behemothean.
I'm about to say, Tone, at least it's not as bad as Fallout Equestria or Project Horizon.
Yeah,
You should see Murky number 7. They have chapters as long as novels.
I'm about to
My
say,
goodness.
Yeah, that is not okay. There is nothing okay with that. No one will
So see-
ever be able to convince me otherwise because they are objectively wrong.
I'm about to say
okay,
that's one of the
Sayo,
major
just
reasons
send it
why
to me.
Tone can't finish Fallout Equestria because the chapters are just too ridiculously long.
Yeah, exactly. They're like half a novel a chapter.
Which
And
is
that's not
which
including
is
the
rid-
spin-offs.
Yeah, which is just completely and utterly ridiculous. I cap out at 10,000 words a chapter. That is my limit.
I apologize. That was off of my short-term memory. The chapters are roughly between pretty much minimum 2,000 words to 5,000.
Okay, see,
So you were talking about story as a whole?
Yeah.
Okay.
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 Oh,
That
okay,
is
that I can do.
that is better. Now, okay. Problem I had
Now
with
you're
you is now
talking
resolved.
because what you were talking about was like 50 pages a chapter, times how many other chapters you already had.
So 2 to 5,000, that is like the ideal range. 2 to 6,000 is the ideal range from my point of view for a chapter length, depending on how much shit is happening in the chapter. Like the longest chapters I've written have come close to 5,000 words.
Wow.
Wow.
I would say at least you're not.
But that's only because there's a lot of shit happening in those chapters. Like the longest chapter of Little Consequences is like 4,700 words, and it's only that long because it deals with like a fight scene that goes for a while, and even then the chapter cuts halfway through the fight, and the next chapter is jumping to a different location to follow up with other characters before we jump back to the fight next chapter.
By no means, fights are never usually short.
I'm about to say,
Interestingly
at
enough,
least
real fights would actually almost always be extremely short. If they're lasting more than a few seconds, you're doing something wrong. The
True.
point of a battle is you're trying to subdue the other person as quickly as possible.
Well, not trying to get yourself killed.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in a real sword fight, you would never see, at least if the two sword fighters had any idea what the hell they were doing, you would never see a fight last more than a few seconds.
True.
If it lasts more than that, these people don't know what the hell they're doing. Something is wrong. Unless they're, like, both masters and equals and know what the other's going to do. Like, if they're both masters of the same art form and are on equal footing, then maybe it'll last a bit longer. But outside of that, not really, no.
I'm about to say,
We have
at least
digressed
it's not
so
as
much.
bad as Tom and Blank, especially
Oh, yeah.
Blank when it comes to chapter length. About to say, hey, Tone?
If I was locked in combat, I'd probably focus on trying to disarm my opponent and finish it quickly. Why waste energy?
Yeah, that's the point.
Or how-
finish it quick.
Or how about some of those chapters from Queen of the Hive where you had to cut them in half because they were just so...
Okay, to be fair,
Slice and dice.
okay, to be fair, it's not actually that those chapters were too long. Those chapters were usually about 4,000 words. The reason I cut them in half kind of stems back to why I put Queen of the Hive on hiatus in the first place. It was burnout.
I mean, you would have 30 more chapters to go, so yeah.
Yeah, it was burnout. It wasn't a matter of entertainment. It was a matter that it wasn't entertaining anymore. Not how long it was. It was a chore. We've been over this before.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. You do something for too long, it becomes a chore.
Yep. Close to 2
There's an old
years.
saying.
I'm about to say that's
a
why
lot.
Forgiveness Pending flopped.
That's why I stopped doing that entirely and have no plans of ever going back to it.
Spam the comment section.
Don't spam the comment.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't fucking do that. That is a bad.
There is an old saying I go by.
Oh,
Too
God.
much of a good thing is a bad thing.
That's just
True.
obvious.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
yeah.
Everyone
But
knows
poison
this.
Isn't the substance? It's the dosage.
Speaking of swordsmanship, I've actually half practiced the sword a few times.
My brother and I
That makes
spar whenever we
sense.
get the chance. Although I'm probably not going to get to see him again for several months.
I've
He's
done
like-
a bit
he's
of
like- he's
sparring
like-
with my
Yeah, my brother. Yeah, my brother's in Massachusetts right now.
Oh.
Like opposite
So
end of the other end of the continent from me.
Yep.
I
You know,
train now and then when I get the time. I train with the sword. I mean, I got my
Bunch of sword nerds. Nice.
So,
when it, you know, okay, there. I just thought of something pretty funny. The reason why I'm actually editing for Skajarmas right now, it's kind of a funny story how that came about. Tone posted on FimFiction that he was looking for an editor for Bug in the Basement because, you know, I'm guessing people were looking at it and they were like, oh, this could use an editor.
No, it
And-
wasn't actually that. It was just that when I was at Everfree Northwest and I was, showing showing stuff to some of the other writers there at one of the panels I attended, there was this panel I attended that was all about giving feedback and receiving feedback on fan fictions. And at the table I was at, we all went in circles kind of reading off bits from some of our work and getting feedback and giving feedback. And one of the main points of advice that was routinely brought up was, and at other writing panels I went to, get an editor. That is something that I neglected to do with the Little Flash series. I might be fixing that with Little Memories if someone who volunteered in the comments turns out to be any good. I'll be poking them about that at some point. But and I determined I didn't want to make that same mistake with Bug in the Basement, so I made a post saying, "Hey, I need an editor." And Fallen, you can continue now.
Yeah, and after a while, what Tone told me is that nobody had really responded after a while, and he was thinking, well, hey, Fallen, there's this thing. You want to edit it? And I'm just like, sure. I don't care. I'm pretty sure my actual response was, sure, I'd love to, if you're willing. And he was like, yeah, nobody else is doing it. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love it. Send it. And he did.
I guess
and then I did.
And then I said, and he found a million and one its that were incorrectly placed.
Yeah, no, they were the wrong its. They were the it is its instead of the possessive its, and because the changeling in Bug in the Basement, small spoilers, the changeling wasn't it didn't have a gender yet. Like, they didn't know what it was.
They still don't technically know. They assume guy, but they don't actually know for sure. They assume
he's a boy. They assume BB's a boy, but
they haven't been able to find anything that could point one way or the other, so they're just assuming.
Tone, I swear if you do that.
What?
But
Have them find his phallus?
Have the dingle dong in their bingo bangles. Because you know why? I'm going to have to look at it intently and see if there's anything wrong with it. Which there probably will be, and then in that case, I'll have to write about it. But I digress. It was after a while, I just started making fun of Tone, I guess it could be a way to put it.
You were making fun of my incorrect use of it is.
And I placed them all on the chat, and it was just, I started putting quotes. I started working the its into quotes, like
historical quotes.
It's not the it is of our lives that matters. It's the its that we call ours.
I'm about to say there's Tone's equivalent of a poem.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I did make a poem. I just never did anything with it.
Oh, do tell.
No,
I have not heard this before.
Oh, I do poems as well.
No, it was very small. I don't remember it, and I don't have it. I'm so sorry. I could probably make one off the top of my head.
But you keep the one you made for me, but you won't keep the one you made for him.
It reminds me.
I forgot. Nobody has heard that poem that I made for you, Hades. Should I reread it?
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
I should.
You're the
yes.
Tone was the one that, no, we shouldn't do that because it just feels petty to just repeat it.
Aw, but Hades, this is a great thing. Okay. I'm going to do it just to fill some time at the end. But what came about this... Yeah. What came about this little backstory is that Hades wrote a lot of things in the same paragraph, a lot of the same words. And one time, there was just 3 me's in the same sentence that had no right to be there. And I was really tired, and I had stayed up for 6 hours into my normal sleep regiment, just finishing a book or a fan fiction called A Change in Fashion, I think it was. And it was a very poetically themed fan fiction, and I was just like, oh, I can make a poem out of this. Yeah, I can make a poem out of this. And I did. And this is the poem. Let me clear my throat.
Gather around, Hades. Uncle Fallen has a story to tell.
Oh, yes, I do. The Three Me's Group. Oh, how they will play in bars across Dublin. Oh, how I can't escape their wretched tones. The way they send my mouth a mumbling. The way they make me feel alone.
Wait, wretched tones.
In-
Hey! I'm sorry, go on.
Yep. In my heart, there is a place deep within Hades' face. A place filled with much distaste. A place written with much haste. I know that writing is complex and hard, and I don't want you to send me to a graveyard. But I must say that your story makes my mind turn black and charred, and makes my and leaves my heart and eyes dampened and scarred. Now the Three Me's group stands alone. There are no instruments left to hear. Yes, no drums, no flute, no saxophone will grace a listener's ear. I know that you may not like it, and boy, I wouldn't too. But this will help me think anew, and I must vent the malice and sadness I accrue. So, Hades, all I have to say is fuck you. That was the poem. And that was written as that like 6:30 in the morning. And I just posted it onto the thing. And he was like, is there an actual problem here? And I'm like, yeah, there's a problem.
Three
Well, it's
me's
just-
in the same fucking sentence.
Well, it's just sometimes when he stays up all night or he has a few too many drinks or whichever, he'll
Alt state.
he'll put I want to say he'll freaking put comments on there, and then they'll either just be something weird and random, and I'm like,
Oh,
Fallen, is there anything actually wrong in this? And then he'll say, oh no, that was just something I just put in there. It's just
Yeah.
funny.
oh, like Zony's Paradise. It was like,
That.
as I walk through the tunnel away from my home, I take a look at it and realize it's very drone. But that's just perfect for a Zony like me. You know I love violent things like animosity.
I'm about to say, what
No.
happened to the laughing tone? I thought this was funny.
There's so many things I've done.
It stopped being funny when Fallen attempted to rap.
Oh, I can rap. Don't you worry.
Don't.
I
Please. Don't. I
I
prefer
started
forms of
drinking at the
music.
beginning of this.
Fallen, please.
I got a poem right here as well.
God, I hate rap.
So it's just not me
I think
rapping,
Zebras
it's
would be
rapping.
Great rappers.
Like I
Why?
genuinely have a very strong distaste for rap in general, especially if it's not done well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
To
I
be
guess
fair,
I can
to be-
rap, I
to-
just don't got a good beat.
To be fair,
Well-
I usually dislike lyrical music a lot more than the instrumental stuff. Anyway, I prefer music I listen to to be instrumental, without lyrics, so it makes it easier for me to put my own visuals and apply my imagination to it.
Meh.
Well, I guess it's the way to wrap up this episode.
I mean, we've got 7 minutes left.
We got 7 minutes.
Oh,
Oh,
I can tell you my poem.
Can
Yeah,
we just
you can
kick,
do it.
Can we just kick Paladin for the last?
No, no.
Oh, come on. I haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna kick
You made a pun. That's
Pun-
bad.
yeah, those aren't.
I could have
against-
made a meme, Hades.
And neither of
Okay.
those. You see, here's the
Okay,
thing.
no
Neither of those are
no meme.
against the rules. He's allowed to
No
do that.
meme. The only one who's allowed to do memes is Tux. You
That
are
is
not Tux.
factually incorrect.
And I'm the only one that should be able to make-
Tux is the meme lord. We can't have memes without Tux.
He is the meme lord. The rest of us are the meme peasants.
Yes.
But I'm just a server overlord in general. Without me, there would be no meme lord, so I can make memes too.
You are an utter bastard. That is what you are.
I am that too. Yes, thank you for noticing. So is Tom. We both have that rank on this server.
Yes. Because
Seriously, if you
Yeah.
click on either my name or Tom's name, you will actually see in big bold text that we have the role of utter bastard.
although, Tone, that does beg a question. When did Tom earn his with Little Wing or Queen of the Hive?
Yes.
Thank you. Because I know exactly when you got yours.
Oh, this is perfect blackmail.
Yeah, when I
Oh,
murdered
is it?
Celestia.
About to say the
Oh,
Fiends
yeah.
trilogy is where he got his.
I murdered Celestia, and all I know, I wake up one morning, I check the comment section. One of the things I see is, I'm just saying this in advance, you utter bastard! Angry Fluttershy emoji.
Yes.
He was not
That
amused.
needs to be framed and put up in your room.
What, you utter bastard?
Yes, that is the thing that started it all.
I mean,
That one line.
I mean, if
Fluttershy emoji.
I mean, if I owned these walls, sure, but I don't.
Aw, that's so sad.
Aw.
I'm already kind of taking a risk by taping the posters I got from Everfree Northwest to the walls to begin with.
Yeah. I wonder if Darkness will be back for the end of this.
So,
He's
you up for
still-
hearing
he's still
my call?
technically here. He's just got dogs in the room, and he didn't want to.
True.
Yeah, we got about 4 minutes left, so
It's not that long.
yeah,
Time for improvisation,
I guess that's where we're at.
I guess.
If Tom were here, we could talk a little bit about what little progress has been made in Twin Peaks, but not much has been made there.
I'm here.
Yes.
Nobody cares about you, Hades.
I'm about
It's
to
just
say,
me.
I'm
Just
about to say, I'm just barely there. It's just all Blank and Tom, even though Blank's not even there.
You're just a stupid Zony.
I am. That I am.
I mean, here's the thing. If you get, the thing is, it's only slow and Blank's hardly around because whenever there's a scene where Blank is, he has to find the time. If you'll notice, when we got to a scene where Blank wasn't needed, shit picked up.
Yeah, that whole scene was it was just you and me mostly, and Tom.
You, me, and Tom, yeah, and we're almost always on, but Blank has like college and shit, so.
Oh, so sad.
Yeah, so he wasn't able to participate as much, so he's kind of shuffled off to one side, but when we were at a scene where he wasn't needed, shit picked up. We were going like rocket speed.
I mean, yeah, that one bit in the mountains, yeah, went by pretty fast. It just kept going.
Yeah, it just kept going and going. We picked up steam and we didn't stop until that day
And then
ended.
Blank finally shows up and he's like, "Holy shit, I missed a lot."
It's like, hey guys, what I miss? In all italics, there's extra spacing.
That's nice. Oh, speaking of Blank, Blank has been pestering me just a little bit more about the story that he really, really wants to be done, which
one
is Pinkie Pie's bread embargo.
Oh God,
Oh,
please.
God.
And I am working on it, and I've been working
What?
on it for like the past 2 months,
Okay.
and it's
What?
like 64,000 pages.
I'm about to say,
I mean words.
Tone. Basically, this fic is Pinkie apparently having a monopoly on everything.
Oh yes. Okay. Here's the basic description. Pinkie Pie is coming up on pie season, and she has run out of bread and has been slowly, running out of flour for a while. And she needs flour and bread, crumbs, and whatever to make her pies. And she can't make her pies during pie season. That's a lot of revenue that's going out. So what she decides to do is sort of create capitalism on the bread industry and the flour industry and network trade embargoes between every single nation except Ponyville, and all of the bread goes to her. And this story is so long.
And don't forget the bread puns.
Yes, and the entirety of it is written in bread puns. That is the main appeal.
Really? That's the dedication.
Kind of reminds me of Licky Flitter.
64,000 words.
I'm about to say it'd be probably as bad as Licky Flitter.
Except longer,
Yes.
because Licky Flitter was just a one-shot full of nothing but run-on sentences that were entire paragraphs.
We need to catch him when he has a cold and he needs to read the.
yes.
No, I must take care of my health.
No, you're gonna catch a cold or something, and you're gonna read it.
Yep. Nope.
No.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Be
Nope.
great.
You say that now.
I
When
do.
Fallen was the one who convinced you to do Licky Flitter.
Because that was one shot. It was a
Come on,
one shot.
It was such a good one shot.
Yeah, but the point is,
Everyone
it
was
was one
horrified afterward.
Yeah,
It was so
it was
horrible.
one fucking chapter. Not more than that. Yeah.
I love how at the beginning of it he's like, "Oh, this isn't that bad," and then he kept going, and he's like, "Oh God."
Make it go away.
Well, on that horrifying note, it is time for us to end. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, so much for joining us for this episode of Jibber Jabber. We'll see you next time. Have fun out there, and as always, keep listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Arrivederci.
Bye, everyone.